Welcome to Pub Natter, where we record each episode in a different pub in Rutland, the smallest county in England. In each episode, your hosts, Tim and Justin, give a voice to the landlords and landladies and a special guest with a specific area of interest or expertise. We hope you enjoy our chats, and it encourages you to go and explore our little county and all it has to offer. Like the motto says, there is much in little. You may have noticed there has been a bit of a summer hiatus from Pub Natter. Justin and me have both been away quite a bit and we'll be back soon for the autumn season. We have some great Rutland pubs, publicans and really interesting guests lined up for you. In the meantime, this recording has been in the can for a few weeks, waiting for me to do something with it. Whilst at the Rutland Camera Beer Festival, I was lucky to bump into Adam Croft, and he kindly gave up his time to have a chat. For those of you who haven't come across Adam, he is a very successful writer of fiction and has a series of crime novels that are situated in Rutland. We cover a lot of topics over a glass of cider or two, including becoming a writer, digital versus print, audiobooks, constructing a story, success, developing ideas, and character development.
When rain stops play, it's time for some Pub Natter.
So we're still at the Rutland 11th Camera Beer Festival, and we're here with a local celebrity that is supporting the festival, Adam Croft. Thank you for coming along.
Oh, thank you.
So Adam is famous because he's an author, and I guess you're kind of semi-local because your parents are living here,
Yeah.
but you are currently living near Bedford.
Yeah, about an hour away, but we're up here quite often.
Yeah.
I know you know my local area. We're both Luton boys originally.
Yeah.
Although I'm a little bit further north now, thankfully.
So, and the reason that you are famous is because you're an author. So, let's talk about, well, first of all, let's talk about the beer festival. So,
Yeah, let's do that.
What have you tried that you liked so far?
What haven't I tried? I've gone through quite a few of the ciders, as the listeners will have already picked up on, and a fair few of the beers as well. I'm trying to go for the local ones where I can.
Yeah.
There's a few from Ketton, from Kingscliff as well, just over the border.
Yeah.
Northamptonshire. So yeah, I'm working my way through. The best one I've had so far beer-wise, unfortunately, was from Rochdale, I've got to say.
Oh.
So a bit of a walk, but lovely beer.
So what was it? Can you remember what it was called?
I think it's called Black Shuck. It was a dark stout. Lovely beer.
Should you combine beers with cider?
Yes.
Is that a good thing?
Absolutely.
That's good, because that's what I've been doing. I'm currently drinking this cider that's... How would you describe the look of that to somebody that can't see it, that's a listener?
Horrendous.
It looks like something you'd find in a ditch, isn't it?
I was going to say a laboratory, but a ditch works as well, yeah.
Like it should have something growing in it. And you would kind of expect something to come out of it any
It
minute.
comes crawling through.
Yeah, Watkins.
Yes, I
from
think we're on the
Somerset.
same one, aren't we? Is it the Yarlington Mill?
Yeah,
Lovely.
absolutely.
They had it
delicious.
here last year as well, and that was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I think you've got like several levels of ales and ciders, haven't you? Like taste-wise, and then you've got delicious, which is kind of near the top, and I think above that you've got dangerous.
Yes. I was going to say, I'm not sure how many of those you've had, but I remember from last year, if you're anything like me, you'll have a headache for about 6 weeks.
Yeah. Oh no, because I'm up early tomorrow.
No, you're not. I'll tell you now, you're not.
It's my Uncle Peter's 90th birthday. Shout out to my Uncle Peter.
Well, he won't be speaking to you by the time this goes out.
Oh dear. So, what are we doing? Oh yeah, we're talking about writing. That was it. So,
Briefly.
how many? Well, first of all, I should explain. Adam's books are situated in Rutland, and they're thrillers. So So first of all, why did you decide that you wanted to become a writer?
I'm not not sure I did, really. I decided I wanted to write. I think deciding to be a writer as a job is possibly about the worst business plan you can come up with, other than being maybe a musician or a footballer. But I was quite fortunate that it worked out, and I was doing a proper job as well at the time. So,
What was you doing when you started writing?
internet marketing mostly,
Wow.
which I guess kind of helped.
So where did that obviously you must have known you've had a talent for it.
I hoped.
So, where did that idea suddenly spring from?
For the first book, do you mean, or for
Yeah,
writing in general?
I just think, I don't know what I should do. I should write a book.
I've always written things. At school, I quite enjoyed that. I remember my mum showed me a story that I'd written on a computer at school. I think I'd been kicked out of class for something, and there'd been one of the things that would work was to put me on one of the computers and I'd write a story. I remember writing a story about pirates, I think, for my brother on his birthday, and it's something I've always enjoyed doing. And the idea I had for the first book was, I think, 2008.
This is What Lies Beneath.
No, but this was the first book in the Night and Culver House series. So I've got 3 series.
Right.
So that was the first one. I think it's 10 books in that so far, and it took me about 2.5 years to write it because, well, half an hour here and there once a week. So it wasn't actually 2.5 years.
This is you working already. You're working full time already.
Yeah.
And you're writing that part time.
Yeah, but not really taking it seriously. It was just something I was kind of interested in, a hobby thing. And when I finally did get that done and it came out, it did pretty well. It was in the early days of digital publishing. The Kindle was really only landed in the UK, I think, a few months before.
Oh. So did you publish this yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
Mainly because I wanted to kind of get some feedback, see how that would be received, and work out where to go from there. And it became apparent to me very quickly that actually it was potentially a good way of doing it
Yeah.
anyway, without it needing to be a stepping stone towards actual publication. I guess I've always been quite entrepreneurial anyway, so I followed that path, and I mean, obviously now we're 10, 15 years further down the line, and independent publishing is the majority of the industry.
Yeah.
And
We
people don't bat an eyelid now.
What normally happens is we normally digress and go off on other chats during these.
We did that at the start, didn't we?
Yeah. Where is your take on digital versus hardback or softback?
I mean, they sit side by side. I mean, they do with me. I do ebooks, I do audiobooks, I do paperbacks, hardbacks. I mean, I'm still publishing independently. I now own a publishing company that publishes my books. So I use the same distributors, same printers, the same proofreaders, cover designers, as all the major publishers.
Where are
Available in
you?
all the same shops.
Where are you? What do you prefer? Do you prefer a Kindle or do you prefer a book?
For reading, I prefer a book.
Why?
I don't know. I think because it pulls my focus a bit more. So if I'm reading digitally on a device, you're tempted to kind of, a notification pops up from something else, you go to that, and
Well, not on a Kindle, it wouldn't, would it?
It wouldn't, no. And I have had Kindles, and they're handy, especially when you go on holiday. I remember years ago going on holiday with one suitcase full of clothes and flip-flops and ping pong rackets. The usual stuff you take on holiday. Not that anyone takes ping pong rackets. I didn't really know why I said that. And one suitcase full of books. And now you can just pop a Kindle in your hand luggage.
Exactly, yeah. I think you hit on the big bonus is portability.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've got this book at home. One of my heroes, author-wise, is Carl Rogers, psychologist. And I managed to get, it's out of print, but it's a copy that came from Columbia University, which is where he studied, out of their library. And I got it for about £5 off Amazon. and it's like falling to pieces. But when you open it up, it's got loads of scribblings from students
Yeah.
in the pages, comments that they've written as they've gone through. So you've got this whole history of a book, and you just can't get that
No.
off a digital.
It's almost like it's become a collaborative piece at that point.
Yeah.
It's a bit like watching football. You don't just watch the match, you watch the commentary and the punditry beforehand and afterwards. You get a bit of depth to it and some commentary, some flavour.
Yeah.
And that's probably a similar kind of
Yeah.
experience, I guess. But I think books, it's very similar to what we see in music. Vinyl's made a massive comeback. Streaming's just not quite cutting it. It doesn't quite have the same soul. Films, people still like to go to the cinema rather than watching it on Netflix at home.
And records are making a big comeback.
Yeah. It's
What about audiobooks?
they're not. Personally, I don't tend to listen to them all that much. Again, probably my attention. I'd have to sit there and just listen to it. If I was doing something else, it would just get drowned out. I'd forget it was even there. And I think if I'm just going to sit there and listen to it, I might as well just sit there and read it. So I'll read quicker than somebody can read it out to me.
I do both. I
Do you?
like both, yeah. Audiobooks I listen to before I go to sleep. And if I'm lying on the
Especially
beach.
if they're mine.
Yeah. And if I'm lying on the beach, because you can multitask. You can see what's going
this
on
is where
around
I fall
you.
down. I can't multitask.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I do like to snuggle down with a book. And as you say, with a book, you're fully focused, aren't you?
Yeah.
On what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I need to be. I need to be fully focused.
But isn't it great that we've got that choice now?
Yeah.
There's multiple choices of how you want to absorb that information.
And
It's great, isn't
audiobooks
it?
are just booming
Yeah.
massively. I mean,
Yeah. So who would you choose to read your books?
I'm
if you
actually
did?
very fortunate. I've got the Rutland audiobooks are read by Matthew Horn, who played
Wow.
Gavin Stacey
Yeah.
and various other things. So, yeah, I'm very, very lucky. He's a fairly local boy, Nottingham originally.
Oh,
so,
I didn't realise he's from there.
yeah. Yeah,
Brilliant.
that was all put on the Essex accent. All put on.
Was it-
Yeah.
So we've digressed again. So let's get back to your writing. So you published your first book.
Yeah.
What was your personal opinion after you'd finished that?
On the book or
Yeah.
on
the
fact that I finished it?
on the whole process that you actually completed a book?
I
from start
really
to
enjoyed it
finish.
actually because I've got quite a scientific approach to writing, and I think lots of art forms have a science behind them.
Would you say that was formulaic approach?
Yes and no. Politicians' answer. I guess there is, perhaps for me, a formula. Everyone's got a formula the way they work. We've all got a pattern and a way of doing things. And I think books can be very much like music. You've got to have a formula and patterns that are followed. Because if you just ended a song on a diminished chord, it wouldn't
Yeah.
quite sound right. It would sound unfinished. And
Yeah.
I think books are very much like that. There are rules you have to follow. You can't, in a crime book, the killer can't be somebody who's not been mentioned in the entire book, which is largely the way it will happen in real life. Is
Yeah.
somebody will appear and they're the killer. It's not how it works in books. They need to have been sort of hiding in plain sight the whole way through. Certain rules you have to follow, certain patterns, certain rhythms that if you don't follow them, just doesn't quite sound right. Just like with the music, you don't know why.
Yeah.
It just sounds discordant and doesn't quite work.
But haven't you read books and it finishes and you think, well, that was a stupid ending? Or this doesn't actually
So
read like it's
read
ended.
or written. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
The artist, it's up to the artist to decide that, isn't it? It's like painting. Like, how do you know when that painting's finished? I mean,
and who decides?
Yeah.
Is it the artist or is it the person looking at the painting?
Yeah.
And it's the same with books. Sometimes I leave things open deliberately, and people will ask, well, what do you think happened to this character, or where do you think that went? And I'll say, it doesn't matter what I think. It is what it is,
Yeah.
and it's left open for a reason, so you can imagine in your own mind where it went after that. And that's not through laziness, that's because that's a beautiful thing to have, to be able to use your imagination to complete something how you think it should be completed, like the end of The Sopranos. The last episode there, that ends really abruptly without ever being concluded.
Yeah.
And that was done deliberately, and the writer was very adamant that he was never going to talk about that, and that it was very much up to the audience to end that the way they wanted it to end, because that way no one's disappointed.
It's true.
And I was like, I wouldn't have done that. I would have, I had him not get killed, or I would have had him get killed.
It's brave of a writer to do that, because we're educated to think in a different way, aren't we? There's a beginning and there's a middle and there's a clear end, isn't there, normally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think probably for your main plot, having a clear end is sensible. But I've had occasions where, for example, you've had the killer's been apprehended, have been caught, and I remember in one book he's in a prison cell, and he's managed to smuggle a blade in his shoe, and you just see him inspect the blade, and the book ends. You don't know whether he's done anything with it or not.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't matter,
Yeah.
and it's not really. That sounds strange. Not really up to me to decide.
Yeah. I guess it's a snapshot in time, isn't it? Because the book's ended, but does the story end? Like, in that person's mind, what's going on after you've stopped writing? Yeah.
Exactly. It's not, in a way, it's not up to me to end it.
Yeah.
The characters have been created. They've got their existence, and I like to think that things kind of live on afterwards in people's minds.
Yeah. Interesting.
In whichever way they want it to live on.
So, what made you decide to do a second one then?
The Rutland ones. Well, the first one did quite well. That helped.
Did you make some money out of it?
It did quite well.
That was
quite
good.
well. And it's well beyond my expectations. I was actually really worried before the first one came out, because I know how fond local people are of their area here, rightly so. I am too, and I wanted to make sure I got it right. Certainly didn't want to offend people or do things in the wrong way, and I was just really pleased and bowled over with the reception it got. And I remember even just something as banal as the actual sales figures. I think by the release date, the print run that had been done just for the paperbacks, I think, was 12 times what had originally been ordered.
Wow.
And it had just gone bananas, really. So I remember on the day that I think it was the first or the second book came out, and it might have been the first. No, it probably was the second. And I was walking down a high street in Oakham, past Walkers, and every other person at least had a copy in their hand. And
What did that feel like?
very strange, because I could just walk down there and nobody knew it was me. It was great. And I remember going into the Nelson in the Market Square in Oakham and queuing up for the toilet. It was during COVID. It was one person at a time, staying 2 meters away. And I remember sort of queuing up the stairs, and there's a woman in front of me looking at a copy of the book and reading the back and flicking through and what have you. And I said, "Oh, have you read it?" And she said, No, I haven't. Have you? I said, "A few times." She said, "I only came out today." I said, "Oh no, look at the back. There's a little picture of me on there." you don't often get to do.
Did you
get to do
autograph
that.
it for her?
I didn't. I don't know. No, it's probably already signed actually anyway if she bought it locally. So
Yeah. Fantastic.
yeah, it's nice to have those. In fact, there's one today. I was here at the beer festival, and a man us at the cider bar. My parents are working on that. I was chatting to them, and a chap came up with his beer list. He said to my dad, "Can I borrow your marker for a second?" And my dad said, "Oh yeah, you want to tick off the beers? It's good to keep track of which ones you had." And he said, "No." And he wrote down an area of sort of white on the paper, trying Adam Croft and his big letters. I looked at my dad, and my dad looked at me, And my dad said to him, you know, he's standing next to you, don't you? I had no idea. He'd seen, I think, an advert for the books or the books on the raffle or something like that, and wanted to look them up and get his own copies when he got home. And he's completely stunned that he was actually standing next to me at the time. I love things like that because
He's going to be telling that story tonight
yeah,
in the pub.
I love that because as an author, you get that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful that if you talk to people, you know, a large number of people have read the books or heard of them or what have you, but you can also carry on with your life. You can come to something and people don't know. You can.
It's very true.
It's not
I mean,
if you're on TV or something like that. You've got no chance. You're recognisable visually.
I mean, if I think of my favourite authors, I wouldn't know what they look like.
No.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
It's a good job to have from that point of view. You get to enjoy the upsides of it, the lovely emails and people saying nice things, and you also get to just go down a pub and enjoy yourself.
Bro. So, where do you get your ideas from? Like, what gives you an idea? Like, you find a body outside Normanton Church.
Not often.
And where do you get your ideas for your the main characters in your novels?
I mean, the ideas can come from anywhere, really. I quite often start with a what if. So we can be sitting here recording a podcast. What happens if a plane crashes into the building? Again, it could be anything. You go from.
Do you get those thoughts though?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and you just follow, and 95% of them will be absolute nonsense. Same with my books, really. But
I suppose the cider might help.
well,
I was listening to George Harrison talking the other day on an interview about LSD,
okay.
and he said,
Which bar's that on?
he said you only needed to take it once. And the interviewer said,
It's done for
so
life.
you only took it once? He said, no, I took it loads of times.
He needed to take it once. He
But
wanted to take it more. Yeah. I think.
So you asked what if, essentially. What would happen if? And then then your kind of story evolves from that.
Yeah, so I'm always writing down notes, and the Rutland series is slightly different. That tends to start with locations or incidents. So I guess much in the way they're laid out when you read them, my thought process is much the same, whereas with the other books it can be very different. So I write some standalone psychological thrillers which are very much the what if. A normal person's life is suddenly turned completely upside down. So they're normally people you can relate to, everyday jobs, everyday life, and something horrendous happens. A child is kidnapped, or the police turn up at their door and arrest them for murder, and they've got no idea what it's about. It's the kind of thing that could happen to anybody.
Sure, yeah.
So I guess it depends on the series as to where the ideas first come from.
What about your character development?
Again, I think it depends on the characters. With the Rutland series, I was very keen that the main character, Caroline Hills, was a normal person. Because you so often...
DCI?
DI. Yeah, you so often get... the temptation is to have the alcoholic or the big hidden secrets, and she's got things she's hidden. I mean, who hasn't? But it's not alcoholism, or that she secretly killed somebody 20 years earlier or anything like that. So she's a real person. I think she's quite well rounded. I think in the first book, or probably at least more than the first book, maybe the first 2 or 3 books, she's probably not the most likable character either. I tend to kind of write the dislikable protagonists, and people that, again, I guess they're real.
I think as a reader, it's important for the reader to have an interest in that person, but I don't think it matters whether you like them or not. I think you've got to care what kind of happens, haven't you?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
or at least identify with them, follow their thought process. You might not like them, but I wonder how much of that is us seeing ourselves in that character.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's often said. I mean, I know you've got a big interest in psychology, and that it's often said that the things we don't like in other people that most wind us up about other people are things that we fear seeing in ourselves. And I
Yeah.
wonder how much that works with characters as well.
Yeah.
That perhaps we see ourselves in them sometimes, and it makes us a bit uneasy. But you know what? We still follow them through.
Yeah.
We still follow through the books, and I think Caroline does become more likable. I think she becomes more rounded. You start to see, especially the reasons why she does things, and the background to things, and things she's been through, and where she's coming from.
So do you kind of find yourself, does she become part of you?
I don't know. I think
Do you kind of lie in bed at night thinking, what would she do here?
I don't know if I do. I think if anything, it might be the other way around. I kind of perhaps put a bit of myself into characters. I've had people say to me, "Oh, you're very much like this character. You're very much like that one," but people rarely say the same character. So, I mean, I think any writer is naturally going to put bits of themselves into characters because it's the only view I've ever had on life is through my own psyche.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know what it's like to be anybody else. So you're always going to put your own spin on things.
Yep. What about the police themselves? Obviously, they feature in your novels. Have you had to research what a detective does, what a day in the life of a detective is actually really like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate that Rutland Police doesn't actually exist, so I can kind of make up what I like there. But yeah, I've got friends and contacts, or contacts who become friends who are police officers, CID. A good friend of mine, Graham Bartlett, used to be chief superintendent down Brighton and Hove. He was city commander in Brighton and Hove, and he's actually a best-selling crime writer in his own right now. After me, I might add. And he's fantastic. He's helped me countless times out of holes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very fortunate to have those contacts. I've also been out with the police on days where, frankly, not much has been going on, but it's been lovely to witness anyway. And there's a lot of information out there these days as well. A lot of policing procedures known about, even things like watching programs like 24 Hours in Police Custody, based in our hometown of Luton. It's quite realistic, really. You're literally watching it happening, and they explain the procedure, and you can see the hurdles they come up against and the things that go on. So yeah, I guess I take advice from different places and take inspiration from different places, but ultimately the story wins out.
Yep.
Yeah, if you can make it realistic enough. But real life policing is very dull, very dull.
Yeah.
So story's got to win.
So what about what ideas have you got going around your head at the moment?
Well, my head's very much in the 6th Rutland book, which I'm knees deep in at the moment, and will be out later this year.
How long does that take you from start to finish?
I'll say a few months. It depends on... I'm either going to be planning things very heavily up front, which happens rarely, or I'm going to be doing a lot of editing at the back end. So I'd say probably about 3 to 4 months, something like that, of actual kind of solid writing.
Do you have a plan of your novel before you start to write, or do you just start writing and see where it takes you?
I've always got something. I've started writing sometimes with less plan than I should have, but I never start with nothing. I'd love more than anything to just be able to go for a blank page, go chapter 1, and start writing, see what happens. But it doesn't work like that. My brain doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
I'm very logically minded. I need to know where things are going. It would frighten the life out of me in so many ways to be able to do that. So I at least need to know beginning, middle, and end. I don't always know the details of the end. Maybe like who it is, perhaps how they're caught. But I mean, to be honest, I've had probably the best part of 2 years where I've barely written anything. So just through various life circumstances, things that have happened, So with this book, I needed to have a really solid plan. I needed to know exactly what was happening at each chapter, what each beat was as I was going through. Because otherwise, I probably wouldn't have started it. I probably would have been scared to start it. So
It's interesting, isn't it?
yeah,
Like, if you think about your thought process now compared to your first couple.
yeah. I mean, I've had books I've started with next to nothing.
Yeah.
And
I guess you become yourself your worst critic.
yeah, I mean, it just gives me more work further down the line. If I either spend 2 or 3 weeks planning or I spend 2 or 3 weeks editing, it's going to happen at one end. I either fix it before I start writing or I fix it afterwards. And I think I prefer to fix it beforehand and know where I'm going. It's certainly a lot less stressful and get fewer sleepless nights.
Yeah. So do you think you're going to have another 20 novels based around this same area, or will you kind of branch off and do something completely different? I say that because I've been reading, I don't know if you know Ellie Griffiths. I've been ploughing my way through her
So
novels.
that strange noise for the listeners was me taking a sip of cider at the same time.
She's, for people that are listening, she's a character's an archaeologist, and all her novels are based on North Norfolk. We've got a static caravan up there which we frequent, so we're quite interested in that area. And but she's prolific.
Yeah.
And she has this relationship with a police officer, so she's very much involved in murders. And she must be up to about 20 novels, getting on for that.
Can't be far off.
Yeah, and it's very formulaic, but a great writer.
Yeah.
And she does, she does it well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, to answer the question, I was very lucky that I've got 3 series and I've got psychological thrillers as well, standalones. So I can branch out without needing to kind of reinvent whole new things, whole new characters, whole new series. But yeah, I've got ideas for other things I want to do in other genres, other sort of veins of writing that I would love to explore, would love to do. But yeah, I mean, I've got, I think, about 30 books out now myself, and there's still so much more to explore in all of the series.
Yeah.
In all of them, I know where the Rutland series is going. I know, marks I want to hit at various points, and it's the same with the others.
That's great. So, what do you like to read?
I don't read as much as I did.
What did you like to read?
Just before children. Do you know what? I did used to read a lot of crime. It's almost, I don't want to say it's like a busman's holiday, but it's a little bit like if you're a magician. Watching other magicians is not quite the same when you know how it's done. And magic's a lot like crime. It is. I see big connections between them. It's very much, especially kind of the close-up stuff. With crime, you're very much trying to make people look over here and not look at the hand slipping into your pocket down here. You're diverting their attention somewhere else, and the big reveal at the end, and how is that done? And actually, if you watch it all back carefully, you'll see exactly how it's done. I can't remember what the question was now.
Oh, who do you read?
Why on earth am I talking about magic then?
This normally happens. It's quite normal.
I think in terms of crime, I'll say perhaps Peter James
Yep.
is one I've really enjoyed reading. He's got a series set down in Brighton. I probably read more non-fiction than anything, which I know is very surprising for a man. But yeah, I'm a lifelong learner. Really, I like finding out about things I don't know about.
I guess that's good for you as a writer, is that you're absorbing more information about different topics, different people.
I guess you get a breadth of knowledge. I know something about everything, and I know everything about nothing. So, yes, I'm one of those, I'm afraid.
I'm enjoying Nick Herron at the moment. I'm loving his books. And they've been televised now. They're
Spy
on
thrillers.
Slough House novels. So for people that are listening, not familiar, it's essentially about what happens to people working for MI5 when they make a mess up. They get sent to this little establishment and they become nobodies, and it's about those people and what happens to them. It's quite good.
Bet there's a few of those. Plenty of material, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're good. So that was brilliant. Do you know? I thought we're going to
Not bad for £5 a cider.
I'm going to sit down and have a quick chat with Adam Croft. I think that's going to be a whole big podcast on its own. It'll have to be.
I apologise.
Yeah, you talk too much.
Again, blame the cider.
Fantastic. So your next plan is you're just carrying on writing. That's it.
That's it.
That's a good plan.
That's it. Yeah. Sixth book will be out later this year. Not quite sure when this will go out. It might have even been announced by then.
And so where do people go to buy a novel by Adam Croft that's situated in a crime thriller that's situated in Rutland?
Anywhere, really. Well, obviously not anywhere. I wouldn't bother with Boots, for example. But you could, any bookshop. Maybe not the big one named after a river in South America, for many reasons, but also my website.
Which is?
adamcroft.net. Lots of local retailers in and around Rutland. And yeah, any normal book retailer, apart from the aforementioned one.
Where would you advise somebody to start if they want to dip their toes into Adam Croft?
I'll say keep your toes away from me for a start. But on the reading front, probably I'll say start with the beginning of the Rutland series. I think by the time I started writing that, I'd got the hang of things.
Yep. So what lies beneath?
Yeah, I think so. And then maybe go back and do the Night in Culverhouse series, which was the first series I started writing, which is, I guess, kind of similar. It's a bit more gritty, set in a fictional town based on my hometown, and got the Kempston Hardwick mysteries, which are much more, I guess they're kind of a light-hearted murder mystery, very tongue-in-cheek, if you think kind of Jonathan Creek sort of style.
Oh, right, yeah.
They're not meant to be taken seriously.
Hence the magic detective relationship.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Well, yeah, David Renwick was an absolute genius. He's obviously picked that up long before I did, and he's from Luton as well. And I've got psychological thrillers, which are all standalones, and again, completely different from the others. So you can dip in and out of the different types of books I've got. I guess there's something for everyone. Now that sounds cheesy, but there is.
That's brilliant. So thank you very much for your time. We're off to go and drink some more cider, I think.
So I say we're looking a bit empty, aren't we?
Yep. Thank you.
So that's a wrap. And thank you for listening to our latest Pub Natter. If you visit timothyives.com/pub natter, you will find photos, links, and more information about each episode. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and please subscribe to ensure you don't miss a pub or one of our amazing guests. The Pub Natter theme tune is by Tom Arnold. That was a Pub Natter broadcast.